podcast. You can now find us on Patreon at the LunaPod, where you can show your support for the podcast for only $1 a month. Or for a little bit more, you can get early access and bonus episodes, contribute to our podcast segments, and receive exclusive video content as we film our reactions, reviews, and discover new K-pop groups. Head over to Patreon now to join the community. We can't wait to chat with you.
There is no amount of grass that can convince me I don't have 10 boyfriends. Hi, welcome to the LunaPod, where we talk all things K-pop. I'm Brooke.
And I'm Raquel. And today is going to be a chaos chapter that we've been waiting to do for a long time. We've been talking about it for so long. I'm so excited that we're finally here. This episode is about delusionally dating idols.
And small disclaimer, this is delusionally dating male idols. We are honestly just kind of entering our girl group era at the moment, so maybe we'll do a delusionally dating female idols in the future when we're a little more solid in some groups. So stay tuned for some girl group deep dives. We'll definitely be doing video reactions on Patreon and detailed podcast episodes.
Today, we'll be joking back and forth about a lot of things, so please don't take this as a serious episode. We're just fangirling. We're having fun. This is called delusionally dating. We're very aware of that. Basically, take this as seriously as you would a crush on a fictional character. Some idols just ooze more boyfriend material than others, so we want to talk about it. But now that all of our disclaimers are over, let's get delusional.
Okay, so I'll start out just for quick information because we decided to kind of test our compatibility with these idols based off our zodiac signs, MBTI, and our enneagram. So for me, I'm 25, I'm a Sagittarius, ISTJ, and type 3 questionably 1 because we retook the test.
Hard. Yeah, I feel like it kind of changes around and we both had like high levels in different numbers, so I don't know.
So I did my research before I retook it, so mine's going off type 3. So my first delusional boyfriend is Changbin of Stray Kids, 24, a Leo. He's ESFP, and he's 7 with 8 for his enneagram. He's just 100% my type. I'm so in love with this man.
If you've listened to any of our podcast episodes, you are well aware of this.
Yes. I really don't have much to say on my reasoning. I just genuinely don't. As our most trusted source of information, K-Profiles, they said his type was someone he can laugh with, and hi, I'm here. I'm laughing nonstop. I love to laugh.
You're hilarious too. You've got great bits, yeah.
I feel like it's a match made in heaven. Again, delusional. But yeah, I'm 100% delusional for this man. It's written in the stars, it's written in our blood, yada yada. We'll get to that in a second. My second choice, pretend we're on The Bachelor. No, Bachelorette, because we're the main girl.
Yeah.
So pretend we're on The Bachelorette. My next
contestant
is Juhan from Monsta X. He's 28, he's a Libra. His MBTI is ENFP, and enneagram is 7 with 6. He is the perfect amount of goofy that I find attractive. Just like his natural duality, I guess, is just, it's so nice. Like his cuteness and goofiness in contrast of his visuals and body type, I'm obsessed. It's everything I could ever want and ask for. And I know I spoke of this man differently in Dancing with Monsta X episode.
That was a whole separate deal. Like, y'all gotta take that out of context.
Yeah. But he's such a comforting, loving person, and just the softness he has, again, like with the contrast of the sexiness, crazy, and I'm addicted to it. And I took again, K-Profiles, hi. I took the Who is Your Monsta X Boyfriend quiz on there, and it chose him, so it's confirmed.
Okay, first of all, I didn't know they had quizzes on there.
I don't know if it was linked necessarily like in the bottom or maybe it was on the side.
Ooh.
I don't know.
But yeah, if the quiz says it, it's fact.
Right?
So.
I agree. My next contestant, I'm like really rolling with his Bachelorette. Oh, I have roses to give out in the end. Get ready. Next is Matthew from Zero Base One. He is 21. He's a Gemini, ENFJ, and question mark on the enneagram. I don't think the group has really officially taken that test yet,
you know? They're still very new, yeah.
And this is so embarrassing, but I'm being real with you guys.
This is so embarrassing, but I'm gonna be really real with you guys.
So, this is so embarrassing, but whatever. This is fine. I need to tell the world. I don't remember what photo it is. If I can find it, I'll like post it.
On the story, maybe?
Yeah, I'll post it on our story once this episode comes out, because one photo that I saw that came out, I literally got butterflies. It was so embarrassing. Like physically,
I get
butterflies in my stomach when I saw this photo of Matthew. I'm like, ew. Not ew. Like, I was like, he's so cute. And I
With
just,
the fact that you got butterflies.
yes,
though.
I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know this man.
Right.
Never seen him a day in my life.
Well, and I remember you
It's
told me when
crazy.
this happened, and we had this whole discussion on how, like, I know I have a true crush if they give me genuine butterflies, and so we were
Yes.
kind of joking about it.
And
I'm like, wow, that's
oh
a
my
genuine
gosh.
crush.
I'm like, isn't that like sad? Like,
Listen, it's all part of the delusion world. We're living happily in it, okay?
like I feel
When
like
the delusion hits too hard.
it really did. I need a grass ASAP because I don't know, like I stan a lot of people, and I don't think I've ever had butterflies looking at a photo of someone, and that's like saying a lot because oh my gosh. Okay, baby Rover, our cat, just sprinted across the floor with his little shrimp. So if you heard him scurrying, sorry. Anywho, I feel like that's saying a lot because I've been in different fandoms all the time. And so for him to do this to me, wild.
Yeah.
But I feel like when we first got into them, I was like very confused at first and had like 3 people. And then whenever I realized it hit so hard and I just latched onto him as my bias so quickly.
I'm pretty sure you had 3 or 4 different phone screens of him. Like,
Oh, I
phone
did.
screensavers? Yeah.
Yeah.
And listen, for you, that's like a big deal.
That's
like,
a big deal because I usually
yeah.
kind of have like a wallpaper for like each bias kind of situation, but I had like 3 of him and I couldn't choose. Love him.
a very strong bias, and I'm sure as time goes on, it's only going to get worse.
I don't need to hear that. I can't handle this. Okay, next is Johnny from NCT. Ew, not me goofy smiling right now. He's 28, an Aquarius. His MBTI is ENTP, and his anagram is 7 with 6.
You have a lot of 7s in your anagram, I'm just noticing.
I do.
Interesting. Okay, well, I mean, we'll get to it in a minute.
Yeah. So he just makes everyone comfortable, and he's very easygoing and just honestly so hilarious. I mean, I feel like most people are kind of familiar with NCT, but if you're not like as familiar with the members themselves or like what they do, if that makes sense. What I'm referencing is Johnny's communication center. Just what you get from him and like just his energy
Yeah,
and personality
it's
is
so
so
fun.
addicting and amazing. And he's just a very genuine idol, and I feel like you can see that.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I feel like we've said this many times. He just is the epitome of a perfect boyfriend.
He is. And again, full delusion here. He's very much the friends to lovers fanfic trope.
I love
That fits him so well.
Yeah.
But he's just overall too endearing not to fall for.
Facts.
My next one is Ito from One Us. He's 26, a Leo. He is ISFP, and again, like question mark for the anagram.
I think this is your first I in your MBTI.
He is.
Interesting. Okay. Because you're also an I, so I was
Yeah.
curious how many of those we would have here.
And he's just kind of someone I'd feel very comfortable with. It's interesting because, like, when I look at my little lineup of my bachelors here, his vibe, aura, whatever you want to call it, is so different from everyone else.
It's very true.
Very
Yeah.
different. And it's just interesting that that's kind of my takeaway with him is, like, he would kind of make me feel comfortable.
Well, yeah, because like when I
Maybe-
think of Ito and I think of you, like you're very like compatible in a similar way
Yeah.
versus as like an opposing
Like
way.
yeah. He's just that silent, shy, loving type, and I just kind of find that attractive. And my last contestant on my show that I'm making is DK from 17. He's 26, Aquarius. His MBTI is ESFP, and he is 7 with 8 for his anagram.
Another 7. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a theme.
He just gives a romantic feeling. Like, sir, please let me walk around cute streets with you holding your hand.
That's adorable. That
That's
is
what
so
I
him.
want.
Yeah.
It is. It would feel like a very mature, grown-up couple, but with the perfect amount of goofiness.
I can totally see that. Yeah.
Right?
Especially like with you specifically.
Right?
Hello,
You
delusion
feeding
world,
into
but
my
yes.
delusion.
No, I get it.
He's just a happy pill, and I just smile a lot even looking at him, and he's also husband material, so he kind of gets an extra little bonus point for that.
That's a whole other category, so yeah, that's a bonus point
Yeah.
for sure. So we're going to jump back and go over in a little bit more detail about the zodiac compatibility, MBTI, and enneagram, all of that. But we're going to jump over into my bachelor contestants really quick first. First off, I am 23 years old. My zodiac sign is Pisces. My MBTI is ENFP, but also ENFJ. I swear it changes back and forth every time I take it. Fun little fact, my MBTI is very much like split in the middle on almost every letter, but this is like the slightly more leaning towards version. And then my enneagram type is all over the place. I quite literally had very high ratings in 3 different numbers, 2, 7, and 9. So I put all of them here because they were quite literally like equal.
It didn't give a percentage, so we kind of had to base it off what it looked like was the high, so it's kind of hard to tell.
And I think maybe 2 was slightly bigger, but again,
so.
I feel like my personality, I feel like is really hard to take these types of tests because it changes a lot.
She's so quirky.
So quirky, oh my god. Does that make me a really fun bachelorette? Should that be my like persona going in?
The quirky one.
Ew, that makes me want to gag. It's so gross. So first in my contestant lineup is going to be Songhwa from ATEEZ. Honestly, we're not surprised here. It's the same thing with Changbin. You've heard us talk about these two forever. He is 25 years old, an Aries. His MBTI is ENFJ, and his enneagram is 2 with 1. I would marry this man in a heartbeat. I just feel like we have a lot in common, and I feel like this whole relationship would just be overall very supportive, very much in tune with each other and like non-judgmental, which I love, and just very much like best friend vibes as well. And I feel like even though we get along super duper well, I feel like we would be able to bring out different sides of each other, which I personally really like in a relationship.
Not
God,
you say not
so delusional.
Not you saying we get along very well as if we know him.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, in this Delulu land, absolutely.
Also, just again, we have said that this is delusional, but like we're actually kind of cringing at ourselves recording this.
Are.
We're having fun, but we're kind of cringing.
Like as I just said that, it like reality hit me of how delusional this is, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So yeah,
please don't judge us.
No, we're just having fun here.
We just have delusional crushes.
We do, and we're playing pretend Bachelorette, so let us be.
Let us have our moment.
Anyway, I just feel like I would be constantly smiling with Songhwa. Every girlfriend bone in my body goes feral for this man, and I just feel like it would be that couple that's like always talking and bragging about one another, and so I kind of love that idea. Next on my list is going to be Miyavi. He is from The Last Rockstars and Skin. Now, I know he's not technically an idol, and he's also happily married with 2 children, but I adore him to no end, so here we are. He is 42 years old, a Virgo, ENFP, and enneagram is 3 with 4. I absolutely love this man's passion, and I also love his open-mindedness, and he is just fully supportive of so many different things. He just feels like a very genuine and good person, and I also feel like this, again, I feel like I'm coming for his wife right now, y'all. I feel like this pretend dating situation would just be very romantic and like supportive. He's just like the dream husband, and realistically, if I'm taking this delusion a step further, I can imagine such a normal and happy life with this man, like just a very content life. So honestly, just checks all the boxes. The next idol on my list is going to be Seyun from Ace. He is 30 years old, a Taurus, INFP, and enneagram is 6 with 7. I feel like we just have a really deep compatibility here, and he has such a calm energy and like tenderness that I really need and want if I were in a relationship. He's just very sensitive and sweet, and he's shy, but he's also like very open to trying things, and I just like the idea of the sides of me that would be showcased with him, because like every person you're around is going to bring out different sides of you, and like when I'm imagining this scenario, I just like who I would be with him. Next idol on my contestants list is going to be Younga from WeI. He is 24, a Capricorn, INFP, and 9 with 1. I fell in love with this man the second I saw him, so he had to go on this list, and I just feel like I would have so much fun with Younga. We would just never be bored, and I feel like it's high school sweetheart type of vibes. And just kind of like that relationship that people are jealous of. Like they're looking at you and you're like just constantly happy. Like it's like not a care in the world, and they're just like, oh my gosh, I want a relationship like that. That would be us. And I just feel like our confidence and shy dynamic would be everything. And I mean that because like there's parts of Younga that he's very confident in and then very shy in, and I'm the same way. So like the way those would work together would just be very, very fun. Last but not least on my list is going to be Xiaojun from Wavy. He is 24, a Leo, ENFP, and 4 with 5. He is someone that I would just feel so comfortable with. I feel like there's a very good balance between being very like personable and fun. I just like love his specific sense of humor. It's not something I'm necessarily super drawn to. Like someone's sense of humor is not like a turning point for me, I guess. But anyway, I just feel like it would be a very endearing relationship. I would feel very cared for and like seen. I just feel like he puts his full attention onto anybody he is like talking to. And I feel like it would be like a storybook boyfriend. If you're just like thinking about the most ideal, like happily ever after thing, this is him. And also, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like we would be a really like nice influencer couple. Like making videos and taking
Cute.
pictures and like, yep. So that is kind of my lineup for this one.
I'll be waiting for the vlogs. So jumping back into our breakdown with the zodiac, compatibility, and enneagram, everything, personality. Starting with the zodiac compatibility, basically I didn't really care nor look into what would be negative.
Yeah, because that's not what we're here for.
That's
we're
not
here
what I'm here
to see
for.
the best of the best.
And some of the negative stuff came from maybe like lack of communication, but I know myself in a relationship and I don't allow that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
I mean, because again, zodiac stuff, it's like, it fits very well, strangely, but like, it doesn't necessarily mean you're only that way.
Yeah, it's not a
you know?
one fits all kind of
Exactly.
situation.
So like, they might say that, oh, you will struggle with this, but I know as me as a person, I would not struggle
Yeah.
with that. So yeah.
And like Sagittarius can kind of just like, they get distracted easily with other things. They like want to ditch something. Again, if I'm dating,
That's not the case.
it's not a casual thing for me. So I'm like, I'm here, I'm dedicated. Anywho, starting with my Leos, so Changbin and Ito, it's very much like a passionate relationship, respect each other, and have a sense of security with one another, which is very nice. And it's said to seem to have like the warmest, cuddly relationship.
Oh, I see that so much for both Changbin and
T, my ex was a Leo.
Oh.
So like it made sense, but like we don't talk about him. But
Right.
like, you know what I mean?
Right. Oh, interesting. I
Makes
didn't
sense.
know that.
Yeah. And people kind of say like Leos and Sagittarius inevitably fall in love.
That's really cute.
And
Oh.
I do love a Leo. I'm very just kind of drawn to Leos in general in any kind of relationship. Like I mentioned, ex, meh. But my best friend from like middle school through like early college, she was a Leo, and we were just like you could not separate us ever. And random, but like my mom's a Leo. I know she's my mom,
that's fine.
but we just meshed really like perfect.
Yeah.
It's so I love it. I'm big on Leos. Next, I'll talk about my Aquariuses. Aquariuses? How do you say
My
that?
Aquarius boys.
Aquarius boys. My Aquarius boys. Johnny and DK. Sagittarius and Aquarius kind of have this strong attraction, very productive relationship, and they're able to communicate emotions without guilt or pressure. It's just very natural and very open, which
Again, with Johnny
that's so
and DK, I
nice.
see it.
Those
too.
are like, again, like that makes perfect sense
Yeah, it
with
really
them.
does.
And somebody made the point online that like they kind of seem like a same-sex friendship, but this might be what the both partners need. And I mean, everyone's kind of saying like your boyfriend or your girlfriend, they're your partner, whatever, is your best friend. And like, duh. But I have always just wanted to have a guy that's a friend and we fall in love. Like that idea
Same. That's
is
so
so
cute.
nice for me because it just feels natural. You don't have, like, you already know the person. So there's no stress of like worrying about meeting up with someone new and like all this thing.
Well, and it's like you're getting to know like almost a more real side of them. Because when you're
Yeah.
going straight off dating, you're trying to impress the other person.
Yeah.
So like,
And so personally, some people might not like the fact that that's kind of the situation. I don't
yeah,
know
like
how to word
being
that.
so much
Like so much
friends
more like
instead of
friends because
romantic.
yeah, people don't necessarily like that, but I love it, so they get points for that. And then onto my Libra Juhan. It's a really good match. There's no pressure and there's enough room to grow with each other, which is very nice as well. I'm loving this whole no pressure thing with a bunch of these guys.
Yeah, maybe that must come from your Sagittarius side.
Yeah. And the two, Sagittarius and Libra, can feel very secure in each other's arms. And again, I already said, like, I would feel so comfortable with him. Mm-hmm. This makes perfect sense.
It does.
Of course, different sources can say different things, but one that I did see said that they're one of the most compatible couples as well.
Ooh,
which is interesting.
Okay. See, all of this is going into consideration for our final rose.
Yes.
Who we're giving it to.
We're giving tallies. My last one, Matthew, he's a Gemini. So, no shade to the Geminis, but you know, they have stereotypes. They're not the most
all
loved,
zodiacs
you know?
do, but yeah.
So whenever I found out he was a Gemini and that I was like attracted to a Gemini, I'm like, what does this mean for
Right.
me? Oh my gosh, what is this? Just because, you know, everyone jokes about Geminis.
Geminis, we love you.
Yes.
No shade.
Literally. And I'm a changed woman now. I might have to search for some Geminis because
Ooh.
they said the intimacy is cherished, very easy, open and no pressure. They complement each other, making a very just compatible, incredible couple. And the sweetest thing ever was someone said they don't find each other right away, but at some point they will. I'm sorry.
that's cute.
I need to go scouring the earth and go on like this cute romance movie
So you can
to
find
find
your
my
soulmate.
Gemini in like
That's
Italy or something romantic, you know what I mean?
That reminds me of like one of my favorite things ever, the red string or the red thread theory.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. That's so romantic.
I want a rom-com now.
For real. Matthew.
Matthew, let's go. actor era. And
Just debuted.
I'm ready. Another interesting point was the website that I was looking at, they kind of gave a percentage for like each little category, scoring different section of the compatibility between the two signs. And with Gemini and Sagittarius, a lot of them were very high. Out of at least the signs that I looked into due to the boys, his was the highest at 92% compatibility.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
This feels a little bit fate.
This is
fate coded.
First I got butterflies, now the internet, the World Wide Web's telling us we're 92%.
The internet never lies. So
She does
if she
not.
says 92,
Oh, another thing that I got 90% on. This is a derail, but it's important to note. I don't remember what the exact percentage is. It was like maybe 96%. TikTok told me.
oh, the TikTok filter where you can put in your name.
Yes. I put in Changbin, it gave me like 96%.
We'll add
So
that to
TikTok
our list. TikTok's
told me
always
so.
correct. Yeah. TikTok never lies.
And then going into the personality, MBTI compatibility, again, all of my people are kind of opposite of me.
But that's kind of what you look for in general.
Yeah.
So
Starting off with Changbin and DK, they are ESFP. So their personality would kind of help me open up and step out of my comfort zone, whereas mine would help bring them down to earth, which
So it's a good
makes a lot of
balance.
sense. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's very yin yang. There's enough similarities for a strong connection and enough differences for there to be like a spark and like creativeness.
yeah, that can be like a balancing act, to be completely honest, to like find the right amount of difference and similarity.
And the website that I was using, they were kind of telling you the different types of connections that you can have with different personalities. And this one was literally the soulmate compatibility, which is like the most powerful type you could have.
Okay.
So taking big
Changmin
note
and
of that.
DK. Got it.
Now Juhan is ENFP.
Complete opposite of you,
Yeah,
right?
complete opposite because I'm
Okay.
ISTJ. His personality type, typically they look for a very authentic and emotional connection and needs to know a person on a deep level when getting into a relationship. And the energies balance each other out very well, which like obviously that makes sense with
'Cause
it
they're-
being complete opposites. And there's just a lot of potential for deep, fulfilling, and meaningful relationship there. They usually feel very safe together and have a unique ability to take care of each other. Again, I think that comes from the complete contrast that they have that unique ability to take care of each other because they look at things completely differently.
Yeah, that's very true. Again, like you were saying all those things, and I can absolutely see Honey like acting this
Yeah.
way. Like I don't know, that's just wild.
And next is Matthew with ENFJ. The personality type typically wants a very authentic connection and love the fact that my personality type and that one shares like a love for organization and structure.
Ooh.
That was kind of a point with like some, I think, personality types. Again, I did not take note of it because I'm like, whatever.
We're not looking at the bad here.
Yeah, that was kind of a thing that stood out was like some of them, the organization skills are kind of different. So that might cause issues like on my end, which makes a lot of sense for me. But I love that there's a compatibility with that because that is such a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And typically ISTJ likes to have extroverts around them who are dynamic and kind of chatty.
Yeah, something that works very well with your personality type.
And how Changbin and DK were the soulmate compatibility. With Matthews, it's a growth compatibility, which offers opportunity to learn from each other's strengths and weaknesses, which is kind of nice.
Again, a lot of growth.
A really
there.
good like balance with
Yeah.
this one. And then Johnny, he is ENTP. Both of our types remain level-headed and are kind of just like the two most rational types.
Again, this makes sense.
Yes. the personality dots are connecting.
For real. Again, not that we know these people for real, but like
Yeah.
from
Like
what we
based
do
off like
know,
what you do know as a fan, it checks out.
it does.
And then ENTP admires loyalty, practicality, and reliability of ISTJ. Whereas like ISTJ is very attracted to the quick wit and creativity and fun-loving nature of ENTP. So again, it's just like
A good
giving each other good
balance.
energy.
Yeah, yeah.
And both are very direct when communicating, which is appreciated from both parts. And there's just like no brushing things under the rug, which I
feel like
love
yeah.
that so much. And that kind of makes sense with earlier how like with Aquarius, like they communicate about emotions without guilt or pressure. Like just the communication seems very good here. And last with Ito, he is ISFP. I was honestly nervous about
right
compatibility
with,
with an I.
introverts. Yeah.
But I discovered that I do actually kind of like this idea because they both see each other for who they really are. And because they're both not seen as warm people usually, but once you look deeper into it, they kind of notice traits that others don't from the outside. Like somebody who might have like extrovert personality, they might not see like certain sides or like tenderness of an introvert I guess. But when you're both introverts, you just kind of see that, and there's like a deeper connection there.
Yeah, I was just
and
about
you see each other's warmths.
Yeah, I was literally just thinking about how
sweet.
deep that would be. Yeah, it's so sweet.
And they honestly just find each other fascinating and comforting, I guess, because of that slight similarity. And they just really respect each other's need to be alone, which is nice.
That is so nice, yeah.
Love that. And yeah, they just connect on a very deep level and read each other in a way that few people can. So this is like poetic and beautiful to me.
Yeah, it is. It's like, wait a second. This is working way too well. I like this idea. And again, it's so funny because I feel like you go through each person and you're like, you can imagine how you would be and how that life would be, like with that type. And you're like, these are all good options. But like, what do I like the most, you know? Mm-hmm.
And like, I know we're just being silly and like talking about idols, but like even within doing this research, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, not that I'm going to go on like speed dating and be like, what's your MBTI?
Right.
But if people do that, like, it's kind of smart because like, you know.
Are learning quite a bit. And again, like we said, it doesn't necessarily like all fits one, but like they kind of scarily are accurate.
Yeah, and it's kind of just nice. I feel like just knowing these kind of things, you almost get like a head start on like if you'd be compatible, like why, like if you kind of maybe, again, it's not an all knowing thing, but if you really just don't think it would work out with that kind of like personality type or whatever, don't waste your time. I mean, like, you can try it out, but, you know, like...
Well, or if, like, you have a very different communication style and you learn that from these tests, then you can go into the relationship knowing how to communicate with that person. And maybe all of your problems are suddenly fixed because now you understand how they think, you know?
And segueing that into one of our favorite segments, it's time for BM's Tip of the Week. And yes, we're talking about guidance. So whatever we just said, use that. Do delusional, fun nights with your friends where you're just like looking into the compatibility of your idols and you can like find the compatibility with your real life soulmate, not your fictional delusional soulmate.
Because then you can like, you're like training yourself to find certain traits in certain people that you know you'll work well with. So yeah, do these MBTI tests, do these enneagram tests, do the Kpop dating games. They're so much fun. Which like, honestly, let's talk a little bit more about those dating games in general, since we are talking about delusionally dating idols.
Those are amazing. They have the FMK games, and we play those all the time.
They're so fun.
We get very hung up. We will like pause and ponder.
Oh, and make a whole storyline out of everything that's happening. Yeah.
And I'm like, if we refuse to choose K, we're like, okay, we're like befriending them, or they're going to be our neighbor. We do that a lot. We neighbor people a lot.
Adopting sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. I'm trying to remember other ones. They have the dating ones where you like choose a photo.
Yeah.
Like on the screen, like a photo like of an aesthetic that you really love. And then in a few seconds, it'll flip over and tell you like, who's your...
Like your best friend.
Yes,
and
who's
then,
your
like,
best friend?
Who did you have this scandal with? Like,
who did you have a crush
things.
on? Who has a crush on you? Like all this like whole storyline. It's so much fun.
Basically, you get to build like a whole pretend life story around it. They're exciting. And like, honestly, it's just so wholesome, like having these game nights, and it's so much fun. And not only are you learning things about yourself and like your compatibility with others and all of this, but it's also just so much fun. And it doesn't need to be taken seriously.
No.
Like this episode, not serious.
Reiterating that. We're going to take a small break and remind you that if you're enjoying this episode so far, make sure to follow the podcast and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss an upload in the future. And if you'd like to show some love, feel free to give us a rating as well. We'd really appreciate it.
Jumping right back into the episode, let's now talk about my zodiac compatibility. First off, all of them had a different zodiac sign, which was interesting. Yeah. Which honestly, I feel like Pisces gets along really well with a lot of different signs, so it makes sense. But starting off with Songhwa, he is an Aries. Aries tend to have a lot of independence, and Pisces, specifically me as a Pisces as well, I really value having independence in a relationship, so I think that would be very compatible, like just being very respectful of each other's lives separately and together. But at the same time, it would be a very like sentimental compatibility, like just very fiercely loyal for each other. And again, I feel like these signs in general just have a lot in common, which is funny because I feel like as a person, we would have a lot in common. One thing that I did notice on these websites as we were researching this is they said that Aries can be a little too aggressive for Pisces, but Songhwa aggressive?
Like aggressive in what way though?
Because
Like,
like
they just mean like very passionate, like that's too aggressive?
no, not even passionate. They just tend to be, they're on the opposite sides of the zodiac sign. It's
Okay.
quite literally like Aries is first and Pisces is last. And like the further down the line you get, the more dreamy and like ungrounded from reality you are. So Aries is very grounded. They know what they want. They see
Yeah.
things very black and white. Pisces is up in the
Well, that
clouds,
makes
all
sense.
sorts of colors. So yeah, so
Okay.
that's why it can like be kind of hard. But I'm so sorry, y'all. Songhwa is really like
No.
not that
Well,
way. I don't
and
know.
again, I mean, opposites attract, you know? And I feel like anytime there's like opposing sides, it can kind of be very compatible because you balance each other out.
Right. And like again, if we were talking about the specific side, me talking as if I know him personally again, but like I just feel like we're both emotionally caring enough to not have issues over this.
Yeah.
I feel like it's something you could definitely like figure out. Next, moving on to Miyavi, who is a Virgo. This compatibility would just be very nurturing and caring, but there could kind of be a lack of communication because both tend to be kind of quiet in a way that they like, and again, this is kind of personal because I'm like, I can be quiet sometimes, but honestly, just overall, that kind of adds to like the relaxed and like pure, comfortable situation that Virgo and Pisces would have together. They're both water signs, so like it's just very much like go with the flow, like
Yeah.
think water. Next, we will talk about Yanga, who is a Capricorn. Honestly, just feels like puzzle pieces fitting perfectly together kind of a thing. Capricorn and Pisces would just love seeing and experiencing the world together, have very common interests, just a very powerful and strong balance, very in tune with each other. But again, kind of like with a Virgo, I feel like there would just be a lot of calmness and like awareness of each other. Keep saying I feel like. Why do I keep saying that?
Well, you can't know.
Yeah, that's true.
You gotta either think or feel because we don't know these people.
Snaps out a
don't.
delusion for a second.
Wait a second.
Wait a second. Next on the list is Xiaojun, who is also a Leo. Leo and Pisces are very complementary. My mom is a Pisces as well, and my stepdad is a Leo. And so I very much grew up seeing this zodiac sign compatibility, right? And I don't quite know how I feel about it because they are so different. The fact that they are so different, though, for some reason, Pisces and Leo have a very strong psychological connection. Like, they just have such a deep connection that people don't understand, which is interesting because I felt like I see that when I see those two interacting as well. But it's just an interesting side of it. A lot of, I guess you could say, balance or like difference between Leo's drive and Pisces' fluidness. Last but not least, Seyun, who is a Taurus. I tend to attract a lot of Taurus in my life, and my ex was a Taurus, so very similar like situation to you and your Leo. I have hard feelings against Taurus because of that, and I feel bad, but I feel like every time I get to know like a friend or some sort of romantic partner who is a Taurus, it just like, I feel like we do not work for the ways that the like zodiac tends to talk about it. But then I think about it as well, my brother is a Taurus.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we get along very, very well. So I'm like, okay, is this a matter of like a male versus female Taurus? Or like, what's happening here? I don't quite know. So I tried to keep my mind open while I was going through this because Taurus and Pisces have very high compatibility in general. They're known as one of the ones that like work the best together.
And that just proves it's very based, like person to person.
Exactly. Yeah, like you cannot take these too seriously,
Yeah.
I feel like. But Taurus and Pisces are known to be very grounding for each other. It's a very stable and secure relationship, which is something that I look for a lot in a relationship. It's also very creative and a lot of like emotional connection. But sometimes it feels like you can get stuck in a rut. And when I discovered this, I was like, oh, this makes sense as to why some of my past like relationships with Taurus didn't work. It's because Taurus is very much content and happy to stay exactly where they are content and happy. Whereas like Pisces are very much like, nope, let's move on. Like next thing, like let's go kind of, and that's very much like me. And that very much felt like my past relationship. So I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. But again, if you are aware of this and you work with someone about it, it doesn't necessarily have to be a deal breaker. Now jumping right into the MBTI compatibility, starting off with Songhwa, he is an ENFJ, which again is half of the time me? Question mark? Those two MBTI compatibilities are just very deep and meaningful connections, a very close and caring relationship, which again, I feel like I've been saying this over and over and over. They have a very similar communication style as well, which is so important to me. And they're very energetic and like storytelling, lots of creative ideas. So I feel like you're able to communicate very easily with each other, just like bouncing off of each other. They also tend to have very similar values. And the ENFJ tends to be much more organized and structured than me, which I feel like would be a very good balance. Then we move on to my exact MBTI compatibility type, ENFP, with Miyavi and Xiaojun. Again, just very similar because they're the exact same MBTI. And honestly, I really like that versus opposite.
Which that's what I was about to say is very interesting. Like all of mine were very different from me,
Opposite,
and a
yeah.
lot of yours are either exactly you or like
Very
literally
similar.
one letter off.
Yes, exactly. Well, and I feel like, again, that just kind of is based off of what we are personally wanting in a relationship.
Yeah.
Like, every time you date someone or you're even interested in someone or even a friendship, to be completely honest, you learn something about their personality and how it works
Yeah.
with yours that you can use in the future to find someone that works even better with you. And so as I have like gone through life and met so many people, I've just learned that I prefer when I have more similarities to someone versus opposing. But again, there's always like a good balance there. Like it's not a bad thing to have opposites. Anyway, ENFP, the conversation between those two MBTIs is very like stimulating and interesting, very like deep conversation and theoretical, which I really love those kind of conversations. And they have very much a play first, work later type of energy. So honestly, like the whole like household chores thing might become a problem because again, we're the same MBTI, so it's go, have fun, and then kind of forgets about responsibilities. So that might be an issue, but like when I'm looking at it with this MBTI, so I'm a little bit biased, right? I get it. I'm right there. I would rather go and have fun. Like that's more valuable to me, having those memories together. So anyway, just very creative, very fun compatibility there. And last is INFP, which is Seyun and Yanga, which again is only one letter off on the introvert and extrovert side. And again, kind of like I said earlier, I'm almost split exactly down the middle between introvert and extrovert. And I've explained this to people before. I recharge in the introvert way. I need time for myself and like alone to recharge, but I also am very outgoing. I love people. I love going out and doing things. And that's why I think I tend to lean a little bit more on the extrovert side of MBTI.
Which is just funny because I can see that in you. And you're I would say you're kind of like the extroverted introvert, but more on the extroverted side. Because when I take the MBTI, I'm literally 100% introvert. There's
That's
not a
hilarious.
single percent that goes to extrovert.
That's crazy. How cool. These tests are so much fun. So INFP personality type would want to know me very deeply, which honestly is no problem. I'm very much an open book for the most part. And along with like knowing me deeply, there would also just be a very deep connection there in general. I can talk, like literally talk people's ear off to the point where sometimes I'll catch myself and I'm like, wow, I've been talking for like an hour straight. I'm so sorry. And with an INFP, that doesn't really matter because they almost prefer having someone that will talk to them and they just enjoy listening to it. So honestly, that would work really well.
It's just funny because I do catch you doing that. Like, you'll talk, and then at the very end, you're like, okay, well, that was my ramble. You say that a lot. You're like, that was my ramble, today's ramble.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. With this compatibility as well, there's very little need for like compromises and communication comes very easily. Also, their schedules are both very fluid, which again is very important for me personally. Now, little did you guys know you were going to be getting a huge deep dive learning session on zodiac and MBTI and enneagram compatibility, but here we are. Hopefully you learned something.
And going into our final 2 compatibility tests.
Yeah, this is like the next stage, the final stage.
Yeah, the final stage. So, jumping into enneagram compatibility, literally all of mine were type 7.
Yeah.
Majority of 7 with 6, except Changbin, who's 7 with 8.
That is so
Again,
interesting.
so interesting because a lot of my people were very similar in, well, obviously enneagram or with like personality or zodiac. There was a lot of doubles in each.
Yeah.
And yours didn't have that a lot.
Yeah.
Mine were very opposite of me. Yours were kind of similar to you.
Right.
Very interesting, like what we're kind of drawn to.
No, I feel like we're learning so much about ourselves throughout this whole thing.
Well, and that's kind of even funny because I remember we talked about this in our duality episode where you even have a hard time defining your type.
Oh
You
my
said
gosh,
that.
yeah.
And that kind of makes sense because, like, I'm not saying this is all over the place, but, like, you know, the people in
are
their,
very
like,
different.
their
Yeah.
signs and everything, their personalities are very different, whereas mine is, like, a very, almost like a strict thing, like,
Yeah.
this is what I'm here for.
That's so
So
interesting.
cool.
Wow.
Look at us learning.
I know. I feel like I'm learning myself so deeply. Like
We thought we were being silly and delusional. We're learning today.
Oh my gosh. Delusionally
so
may have some
interesting.
bonus sides.
So, anywho, with the whole type 7, very highly complementary and feed off each other's energy, where 3, mine, focuses on goals, 7 brings adventure.
Oh, that's
which
a really
makes a lot of
nice
sense
balance.
for me and, like, what these people have chosen, like, how their energy goes. And apparently, the electricity between a 3 and a 7 just turns heads. We walk in the door, everyone looks at us.
That's everything.
and very yin-yang way of doing things where one lacks, the other provides.
That's perfect.
I love a contrast, apparently.
Yeah.
Now, this last test is where we go full delusion. Like we said earlier, we do play these like dating games, and we will sit there and ponder, like I said.
Right.
And when we were playing FMK, sometimes I'm like, when deciding who I'd marry, I like have to sit there and think for a second, because you have good choices. And then I'm like, okay, let me just visualize this, like full delusion, acting as if this is a real game, deciding my fate and the rest of my life.
Imagine this person here doing the thing. Yeah.
Yes. And so I'm like, okay, like let me envision this stuff. And so I kind of put that into this test. And so I think I looked down at yours and you did different ones, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay, that'll be fun to see. Mm-hmm. So I did imagining holding hands, like walking down a street with someone. And like I can envision it with everyone, but the people was the highest with like more clear, I guess, like just kind of felt natural. Was, again, I know I'm so sorry you can't visualize.
I'll explain that more in a second, but wow, that's like clarity?
Yeah. I can't even express because it's... Okay, let me go into it. So, Changbin and Juhan were the highest. Like, whenever I was thinking about holding hands with... I literally took each boy and was like, okay, let me do you. Okay, next, going down the line. As if I'm walking down the street holding hands with this person. Those felt the most natural and had the most clarity. I could envision it with everyone, but DK was low for some reason.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like, I could see it, but it wasn't like... It didn't feel... not that it didn't feel right.
Right.
But it felt more comfortable with them.
That is so interesting. Okay. Yeah, again, I'll explain more of this in a little bit, but I get it. So your hand-holding, walking scenario, Changbin and Juhan are the ones.
Like the highest.
Got it.
Yes. So yeah, I kind of like did 2 per
scenario.
Visual, scenario that were kind of the highest. Now with a coffee date, DK and Matthew felt the most natural for those. And even just kind of like seeing them and their vibe, that kind of makes sense as well. And maybe that's why I could envision that very easily. And I love coffee.
Yeah, and a coffee date AU with like with Matthew right now with his little blonde hair and being in that like wooden coffee shop, that would be so cute.
Yeah, the whole coffee date thing is very much for me. I never had a coffee date, and I'd love one. Matthew?
So Matthew, after we act, come over, let's go for coffee.
So yeah, those were definitely the highest. And then you're like, okay, like you're out and about. Let's take it home. Like you're in a relationship with this person. What are we doing? If we're just straight up relaxing on the couch.
An at-home chill day.
Yeah, super chill, like watching TV on the couch. Very casual. The highest were Changbin and Johnny.
Ooh.
And I think because, I mean, we kind of said that like Johnny was like perfect boyfriend material. Like really just to a T, like what you envision. And so I feel like that kind of makes sense a lot for him.
Yeah.
And Changbin, I'm just so in love with him, and
he's delusionally making it perfect.
Yeah, he's just a very cozy, cuddly, like soft person. So I feel like that's also why that kind of played a lot there. And that freaking video that is going around like crazy still because everyone's freaking out about it. Him just like sitting on the couch with his soft hair, no so makeup, cute. Glasses, shorts. Like that helped a lot with envisioning this. And then the last one, this is my go-to test when playing FMK and deciding on a married person, like who I'm marrying.
Okay,
I envision walking into the front door and going to my kitchen and putting away groceries. That's a very normal, mundane thing.
Okay.
But I'm just like...
Is it like how they would react to you coming in? Like if they would help or like you're both doing it?
Yeah, we just came. Okay. We're both here already. We're both putting the groceries away. Like we just came from the grocery store and we're carrying bags in. We put the bags in. We're like both like putting things away.
Okay. I mean, that's like a mundane thing that's necessary though. That happens all the time. So.
And so that's kind of like another go-to for me. And for the highest with this one was Juhan and Ito, which they kind of give a similar vibe to me, at least. So it's kind of interesting that they were the 2 that was highest.
Right. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So, like, for these 2, I just want you to explain this visualization a little bit. Like, what happens in this scenario with Juhan? I'm just genuinely curious.
Like, what do you mean?
Like, when you're imagining, like, putting away the groceries, are they, like, helping? Like,
yeah, like, they got their own bag. They're doing their own thing, like, putting stuff away. So, like, what's
the difference of it? Is it, again, just, like, a clarity that you're getting?
I think it's kind of, like, a clarity. Okay. And, like, I don't even know what really makes that difference. Because I'm trying to think of, like, Matthew. It's hard for me to envision that.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Interesting.
And, again, like, there is I guess a little more of an age difference with him. Maybe that's why. I like maybe that's kind of coming into play. I really don't know. But these two, I know I said earlier that like DK gives husband material, but these are some of the two that I would say I'm most comfortable with the idea of. So, and like whenever I say like comfortable, just I really don't know how to explain that. I mean, comfortable makes sense, but
right.
you know, just like a softness, comfortable, and like everything else, like after going through all these other compatibilities, they're big husband material. And so I think that's like why that helps a lot, because I'm like, okay, we're like here, we're like doing things together.
Right. Doing normal married couple things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like groceries.
I feel like these visualization tests are so telling, to be completely honest. Like, it's very, very interesting.
So those were just kind of my highest ones, and that's what I was envisioning.
Now jumping back to my Enneagram compatibility, like we kind of said earlier, they were all very dramatically different. Mine is very high in 3 different numbers, so again, this makes a lot of sense, to be honest, because if I am high in 3 different numbers, that's 3 different numbers that could be high compatibility with other numbers. You know what? So like it just like broadens the playing field, I guess you could say. Anyways, Songwa and I have the same Enneagram, if we're going off of the number 2, which I think technically was my highest when I took the test the last time. But there's a high level of warmth and affection, sensitivity, very like friendly vibes, outgoing, high energy, comfortable, etc., etc. With Miyavi, who was a 3, that compatibility is very like flirty and proud. It's kind of like an eye-turner type of situation when together. And I kind of loved this because I was reading one website where it talked about how my Enneagram type would be kind of like the power behind the throne, but I'm shining the light on number 3, like Miyavi. So he's kind of like the face of it, and I'm kind of behind the scenes being like, look, ding. And I'm like, that's such an interesting like idea. I love it. Just kind of an impactful duo. Very passionate, like feeding off of each other's high energy, lots of support, encouragement. Love the vibes that are happening here. Seyun is a 6. It's very like secure and responsible with some of my higher numbers. It's very like domestic, like you share your duties and there's just like a lot of admiration there for each other. It's very grounded and like supporting, especially like when you're looking at the future, and very much like free thinkers, which I love that the website like said that because I love that idea. I'm very much like that way. I'm a free thinker, and so having someone else with that mindset as well is very, very nice. And they're in that way, they're not like concerned about conventional values. So like, for example, again, this is just like a little piece to get an idea of what that kind of means. Politics. If you have a different idea on politics, this is just so unimportant to this, like, to these Enneagrams, like, together. That's just not important to them, so it just never comes up. It's never an issue. And it's definitely, like, a confidence boost, especially, like, the 6 to my Enneagram types. I read somewhere that it's, like, you found what your heart has been seeking in a 6, and I'm like, oh, that is really, really cute. The more I went on with this, the more I realized, like, how much I admire Seyun, and I just think he is the epitome of what I would realistically want in somebody, which obviously I have loved him for a while now, like ever since getting into Ace, but I was like, wow, okay, this man is like really my type. Younga is a 9. It's a very like warm and good-natured, easygoing, but there's also a romantic and funny side to it. And honestly, just like a very much kindred spirit type of relationship going on here, which I feel like I've probably said that before in other episodes because I love using that phrase. There's just like a softness overall between these Enneagram types, which is very appealing. Xiaojun is a 4. 4 brings a lot of creativity, laughter, and like honestly a little bit of craziness. They balance with the 2 side of the Enneagram though. And because of all their like this high energy, there's just like a lot of intrigue between these Enneagram types, and it's very entertaining. But along with this excitement and fun, there's also a lot of sophistication and like elitism, which I found very, very cool. I'm like, it's very like, kind of like how I was saying, very at the very beginning, almost like influencer couple. As weird as that sounds, like it very much fits that. So I was like, wow, okay. There's also a lot of like soulmate-esque type of compatibility here. And again, I know that was a lot. There was so much for me to go into since I had 3 different like high-ranking Enneagram types, and like going through, and all of my contestants had different Enneagrams too. So I had to look up 3 different compatibilities for every contestant. So it was a lot. But let's move on to the visualization test. Major rip. My brain works very differently because I have aphantasia. It is the inability to visualize. So I could imagine these scenarios with every contestant, and they have like different playthroughs. So like my brain doesn't work like yours, for example, like with the being able to just like see things and understand it. Mine works kind of like a script, or like I have to decide what is happening and like play it through in my brain, just because I cannot see images. I can still imagine. aphantasia is really hard to explain. This is a very big thing. I remember the day that I found out aphantasia that like even existed, I had no idea that people could actually see things.
You were so upset.
I'm still upset. I'm still upset about this. I'm an artist too, which makes no sense. People are like, how do you not visualize, but you like create artwork like that? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't get it either. Like, this is detrimental to me. But there's this test that there's like, you can find it online if you type in aphantasia test. And it's like, close your eyes and imagine an apple. And then it's like, okay, now open your eyes and look at these boxes. And it ranges from a very detailed apple to a black screen. And it kind of just fades almost and like turns into an outline and all these things. And they're like, when you were imagining an apple, what did you see? Like, what did your mind's eye see? What did you visualize? And my brain saw nothing. It sees nothing. It's black. So I'm like, it's the black box. And then one day I was like looking at it and I come to you and I'm like, Brooke, imagine an apple. And I'm like, which one do you see? And you immediately were like, the very detailed apple, but mine was this color and it was sitting on a table and it was like way more detailed than that, you know? And I was like, wait, you actually saw an apple? And you're like, yeah. And from that point on, I think I bombarded you with questions for hours.
Yeah, I know. You're like asking like, I don't even remember, like, can I pick things up? I'm like, yeah, like I can pick things up.
Right, and I'm like, have you seen this room before? Are you like creating it as it moves? I'm like, you can actually see this thing. You can actually touch this thing. Like, it was just mind blowing to me because I don't visualize. So, and I never thought that people could actually see things when they close their eyes and like visualize. So anyway, this visualization test had to work very differently for me because I can visualize. Again, if you want to know more about aphantasia, definitely go look it up. It is a huge, long thing that shook my world a lot, and honestly, it's just way too much to get into in one sit down. But long story short, what I kind of had to do in this scenario was pick a situation and then have them do an action and like think about this action and then how, based on their personality that I understand, would they do this action? Like, how would this action play out, right? Okay, so
almost like if you say like, I'm gonna go walk down the street with this person, you don't just automatically see it and you're like already walking down the street by the time like that is said.
Right. I have to like decide like, okay, we're gonna be walking down the street and we're going to stop and look and pick a flower or something. Like I have to
like you have to think about the actions before they happen.
Yes, I have to decide this is the action that's going to happen. And in this scenario, how would Songhwa pick up the flower and what would he do after he picked up the flower?
That's so interesting.
Yeah. So that's how these had to go. So I had to do this test, like different playthroughs through all of my contestants. And honestly, I love them all. I just had to pick the one that I liked the best, basically. Because again, there's no images happening there.
You can't feel it too.
Exactly. Yeah. So our first visualization scenario is going to be a date in the park. And now I was kind of thinking about like sitting on a little blanket and like laughing and kind of like watching things like happening around. And the two that stood out the absolute most for me in this visualization test was Younga and Miyavi. Young and I would just have so much fun and it would be amazing. And then Miyavi and I just feel like they would be just very romantic and very much like we've been married for a million years and we're like going on this very normal weekly park date kind of a thing.
Like you're sitting like kind of like you're walking around a park, you're having a picnic.
Kind of more picnic-esque.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's what I was, yeah. I just imagine sitting on this hill. Okay, I say imagine, I'm not actually saying things. This is like a run-on joke for a lot of us now, like people I've told about this aphantasia because I can't visualize, so we'll say the word imagine or like blah, 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 and it's like just a run-on joke now. But high-key, I'm so upset about it. But anyway, so imagine with like Younga, we're sitting there and he's like poking at me and like being like we're laughing, like we're like being very playful and very, very fun and just like very much happy memories being made there. With Miyavi, I feel like we're like laying down, like just looking at each other and he like is pouring me a glass of wine. You know what I mean? So that's
that also kind of makes sense like age-wise, like
that's
a difference, you know?
The next scenario would just be holding hands in general. And again, I had to make this so specific because it's like, how would this person specifically act in the very simple, like if you were looking down at two hands, how would that handhold be? And like, what would they be like rubbing your knuckle or like how natural would it feel?
Yeah.
Like that kind of a thing. Again, this is so hard for me to explain just because like my brain has to work around it so differently. But for holding hands, I definitely think Songhwa and Seyoon were the best in this specific scenario. The next scenario I chose was a theme park date. All of these made me so delusional, I quite literally could not land on someone.
I should have thought of that. That's smart. Especially like us being Orlando.
Exactly, yeah. I went through each one of the contestants with like, what kind of things would we do on a theme park date? And I quite literally could not pick someone for this to be the best with. They're all amazing. The last visual test that I threw together here was playing board games. Because I love playing board games.
I don't like a board game.
Oh, I love board games.
I get anxiety
Oh.
when I play like little household games like that because I don't even know why. I think it's just like if it's especially if it's a new game, I don't know how to play it. So I automatically feel anxious about playing, how well I'm gonna play.
So that might be a good visualization test though, of
and
like
I
how
feel
would that
I'm
person
so,
react.
like-
That'd be a good test though. Like how
Yeah.
are they like reacting to you being nervous about playing a board game?
Yeah. Who's comforting me
yeah.
in my time of weakness?
I personally love playing board games, especially like learning new ones and exploring new ones together. And I'm very not competitive. So playing board games is very easy for me because I quite literally don't care who wins. So the two that I thought would be the most fun in this scenario and like I would feel the best with in like a relationship aspect, I guess, would be Xiaojun and Songhwa. And I think that kind of wraps up our visualization test and our enneagram test and all of our tests. Are we ready to talk about finalists?
Yes. So, reminder, we're on The Bachelorette.
Yes, I know you forgot, but here we are reminding you.
And we have run through all of our K-pop idol eligible bachelors.
We've put them through all of the compatibility tests we could possibly find.
Now, my two finalists going in, it was a hard decision.
But you have to take all of this into
Yeah, we're
consideration.
taking everything into consideration. Mine are Changbin and Juhan. Now, when deciding this, there were other people where I might have liked their zodiac sign compatibility more, or I really liked the comfort a lot that came from the personality. Like Ito, I loved that a lot. That just felt right. Or with the zodiac signs like Aquarius and Gemini. But what came down to it was mainly like the feeling I would have in a relationship with this person.
Like overall, yeah.
Overall feeling. And so those are my two finalists. And so now it's time for the final rose to be
Drum roll.
Yeah. So I'm giving my final rose to, no surprise, Changbin.
Yeah, we saw this one coming.
Unfortunately, everyone saw this coming. I just can't say no to him.
Well,
Not like
and,
he's asking.
Oh, well,
but
yeah, but Delulu train.
Yeah.
Well, and like honestly, there's a reason we are drawn to our ults. Like
Yeah.
that makes so much sense. And like going through this compatibility honestly just confirmed it more. And again, we learned a lot about like what other personality traits do we work well with. But in the end, your ult's an ult for a reason.
Yep. So congrats.
Yay,
Changbin.
Changbin! Final rose
Goes to
Frame.
you.
Bomgyu's flaming rose? Anyway, my finalists, I decided to think about this very realistically. Okay, realistically as in our Delulu land,
Yes.
but very realistically, who would I work the best with? And I decided that since Miyavi's already married, I'm going to make things easier for myself and exclude him. So my finalists, I ended up with Songhwa and Seyoung. But in the end, I am giving my final rose to Songhwa. Again, big surprise. It's our second ults. So like
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. But like truly, very realistically, I can just see myself having a very happy like relationship with someone like him. And of course, I feel like before we can truly end this episode, we have to do honorable mention boyfriends.
Now, these are people who didn't make the cut. We don't really have a reason for that. These people just really exude boyfriend material overall for should be anyone because they're that perfect.
Yeah, honestly.
Mine is Connie from One Us.
Oh.
I'd quite literally secretly leave anyone for him.
Yeah, we had a whole discussion about this one night. It's like
In
it's so
the
true.
Wendy's drive-thru.
We did, yeah. Oh my gosh. He is literally everything. And very similarly, I'm going to say, from ATEEZ, they give me the same vibe, which
Yep.
is funny because they've literally done a video together, like ATEEZ and One Us, and they had a whole moment of like being very similar. But anyway, just the most perfect boyfriend. I cannot express that enough. So they really deserved an honorable mention in this episode. But honestly, stay tuned because we'll probably do a whole episode about like boyfriend material idols and maybe even husband material idols.
Yeah.
I don't know. Stay tuned. Okay, I think it's time to jump off the Delulu train, come back to reality. That was a lot of delusion in one sitting.
All aboard the toxic gossip train.
The delusional dating train. That was a lot of fun. Like, again, it is so out there and so stretched, but like, This is what makes K-pop so much fun, is being able to like think about these situations. Like we kind of said earlier, it's almost like a fictional thing, right?
Like
Obviously
you almost
these are real
feel
people.
like I'm watching Twilight and I had to choose Team Edward, Team Jacob.
Exactly.
It's the same kind of like fun as that.
Yes. Or like quite literally the Bachelorette. Like these people have very much personas on screen. Like that's it. And again, idols are very much real people, and do not forget that when we are in Delululand, right? But just for the fun of it, it was a very fun episode. And it's fun to like just think about these things and like play pretend. But on another note, Songhwa, if you ever need a wife, I fully will drop everything right now. Before we tune out for today, we just wanted to let you know that we have started doing content over on Patreon. So if you'd like to join us, you can find us at the Lunapod. Over there, you can get exclusive content and participate in our podcast segments, like shouting out your favorite song of the moment, which is what we are going to do before we officially head out for today. It is time for our song of the moment. This week, it is going to be
Back for More by TXT featuring Anita.
This might be the best collab song to ever release.
No, it really is. Like, I remember I watched it and I'm like, you might think I'm crazy, but like, listen, this is maybe so bold of me to say. I might be like judging myself in a few months, I don't know. But this is like one of my favorite songs. Like,
I know,
low-key like top K-pop song, which like is crazy because like it's in English, it's a collab, like
yeah,
but I can't help it.
It's
so
amazing.
good. It's a freaking bop. TXT is like constantly proving themselves over and over again. Not that they have to at all, but like
right, but they are.
Holy crap.
So Back for More by TXT featuring Anita. Definitely check that out. I'm telling you, it's the song of the summer. As always, you can find us on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at The Lunapod, and on Instagram at The Luna Podcast for up-to-date information on episode releases and behind-the-scenes fun. We post all sorts of content, so definitely make sure to follow us and check that out. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Bye!
I would quite literally drop everything for any one of these idols.
Literally same. Like think about Jackson Wang, right? He's like absolute husband. All you would have to do is nod, and I'm there. Like no words need to be said. Done. Do we need to have a husband material episode?
I think so.
Does that one need to be explicit?
I think so.